Senator Bernie Sanders is now running for President of the United States on the Democratic ticket. Now, one possible opponent is Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is the ex-CEO of Starbucks, and he is also a billionaire. Now, Bernie Sanders, of course, is very critical of certain billionaires who continue to hoard wealth and support policies that allow them to pay lower taxes, to not pay their fair share. So he's been very critical of Howard Schultz, and Howard Schultz, of course, has been very critical of Senator Sanders. Well, now that he is running for office, CBS's John Dickerson decides to bring up Howard Schultz in this interview, and I want you to take a look at that, what Bernie Sanders says. Watch.
Howard Schultz has now said he would not run as an independent if the Democrats nominated a moderate.
Oh, isn't that nice? Why is Howard Schultz on every television station in this country? Why are you quoting Howard Schultz? Because he's a billionaire, all right? There are a lot of people I know personally who work hard for a living, who make $40,000, $50,000 a year, who know a lot more about politics than, in all due respect, does Mr. Schultz. But because we have a corrupt political system, anybody who is a billionaire, who can throw a lot of TV ads on television, suddenly becomes very, very credible.
Unfortunately, that is 100% true. Look, Howard Schultz polls at 4%. He is deeply unpopular. Look, and he's running as so-called centrist independent, right? He's polling at 4%. Nobody cares for a centrist independent. No one cares at all. And by the way, I love the tone he took. Whoa, isn't that nice? I love it. But anyway, now, look, as I said, back to Howard Schultz. So he's polling really, really badly. Nobody likes him. Even the Democratic Party hates this guy. And yet, CNN immediately threw him a town hall. Now, look, maybe CNN is trying to be fair and give everybody town halls. But then again, I haven't seen... Was there an Elizabeth Warren town hall? I don't remember. I know Bernie Sanders is getting a town hall, so that's great. So credit to CNN for actually getting on the ball here and saying, oh, right, Bernie Sanders is running. He's literally a front runner, but of course, they're not going to agree with that. So we're going to give him a town hall. Now, what do you want to bet that that town hall would consist of? But how will you pay for it? Of course. But look, the reason, of course, that everybody, that a lot of the billionaires, I should say, a lot of rich people are actually supporting Schultz and not the American people, is that they look at his platform of not raising taxes on the rich, and they say, yes, absolutely, yes, not raising taxes on us. Well, that's all we care about. Everybody else, climate change, who cares? You know, let everybody else burn, right? And look, that's unfortunate for everybody else. But look, why is he unpopular with the Democrats? Now, that's curious, right? Centrist independent. Well, it's because he's intentionally running as a spoiler to stop Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren from actually beating Donald Trump. He's literally saying, by running, I would rather have Donald Trump win than a progressive. That's the message. That's the message. And so that's so-called centrist logic in a nutshell, by the way. And the whole thing is to save Howard Schultz from paying a little bit more in taxes. That's what it's all about. And in fact, Sanders is going to talk about that a little bit in this next video. Let's watch.
So what Mr. Schultz, what is he, blackmailing the Democratic Party? If you don't nominate Bernie Sanders, he's not going to run? Well, I don't think we should succumb to that kind of blackmail.
The other reason is that he represents an argument that some people make, which is if you're worried about Donald Trump, the Democratic Party, to win voters in various parts of the country, needs to pick somebody who is not so radical. That's also what his theory represents.
Well, I think his deeper theory is, hey, I'm a billionaire, leave me alone. And let me make as much money as I can without paying my fair share of taxes. He's a billionaire. He's thinking of running for president. Suddenly he's a very famous guy. That is a problem with our political system.
Again, that illustrates the corruption in our system. If you have a lot of money, media, which of course, media gets... See, you have to understand how media works, right? So These media corporations like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, they are giant multinational corporations. So, of course, when you do things like run television ads, who do you think gets that money? So the way that the system works is, well, there is money in politics. So you take that money from all these donors and sometimes super PACs, and you use them to run ads. Now, of course, super PACs can run advocacy ads that don't necessarily go towards or against one candidate, but can actually go towards an issue. So now the lines are a little bit blurred. There's not really a whole lot of enforcement when it comes to money in politics, because basically the people that are supposed to enforce it, the FEC, have basically been gutted and taken over by right-wingers. So now that means that basically it's kind of a free-for-all out there. So what Sanders is trying to say on that is, well, since it's a free-for-all, the person with the most money obviously is going to be favored by these giant multinational corporations. That's why Howard Schultz is getting a town hall, despite polling disastrously at 4%. And so that's why, of course, other people are also getting ignored when it comes to their town halls. And so anybody who's going to continue to protect the giant corporations and the wealthy are going to be favored. Now, fortunately for Bernie Sanders, he has power, he has name recognition, he has a following. Back in 2016, he did not have any of those things. So that's why, of course, the day he announces, CNN is like, oh, we better give Bernie Sanders a town hall, or else we're going to have some major pushback, some major problems. But believe me, if Bernie Sanders was not well known and didn't have money, well, he wouldn't be getting a town hall. So that's kind of how it works out. Now, as far as what he said about blackmail, yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is a blackmail. Oh, you better not run Bernie Sanders. You better not run Elizabeth Warren, who are both running. Or else, look, if you do, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to be a spoiler. I'm going to make sure Donald Trump wins. It is supremely selfish for him to run, but that's the point. He is running on nothing but selfishness. He is a billionaire. His policies include cutting Social Security and Medicare in order to balance the budget, to get rid of the deficit, right? Or to get rid of the national debt. And of course, look, what does that lead to, right? Cutting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, cutting social programs. That also leads it to be able to cut taxes on himself. That's what this is about. That's not what America wants. It's very clear. You look at the polls, you look at policy, you look at things like Medicare for All, which polls at 70%. You look at Green New Deal, which polls at 80%. You look at all these other issues, free college, same thing, 70%. You look at all that and you realize that that is not, these policies pushed by Howard Schultz and centrist Democrats are not what America wants. The future, of course, is with progressive ideas. They work, and they're actually pragmatic and practical, and the American people do want it. But people like Schultz, they would rather risk giving us 4 more years of President Trump in order to stop himself from paying more taxes. It is nothing more than greed. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.